She was only 9 when she found him bleeding near the woods and gave him water, her scarf, and a place to hide. Years later, just before walking down the aisle, she turned and saw the man no one ever knew she saved, standing at the back of the church, waiting. Sophie had always been the kind of girl who saw what others missed. Birds with broken wings, dogs limping on the road, strangers who looked like they hadn't eaten in days. But the man she found that day in the woods behind her grandparents' farm wasn't like the others. He was injured, his shirt torn, blood soaking the side of his leg, his eyes darting like he didn't know who to trust. Sophie had frozen at first, but he looked at her and said nothing, just breathed like every second hurt. She didn't run. Instead, she dropped to her knees, handed him her tiny pink scarf, and whispered, "Don't worry. I won't tell anyone. You can stay here. I'll come back with water." She did exactly that. For 3 days, she brought him food and bandages, never asking who he was or why he was hiding. He never gave her a name, only a soft "thank you" each time she returned. And then, one morning, he was gone. No note, no goodbye, just a folded handkerchief on the rock where he used to sit, and a single word stitched into the corner. Brave. Years passed. Sophie grew up, moved to the city, studied nursing, fell in love. Life moved on. But a piece of her always wondered, who had he been, and what had become of him? She never got the answer. Until her wedding day. The church was glowing with soft light, music floating gently through the air, guests standing as Sophie prepared to take her first step down the aisle. Her dress flowed behind her like a quiet dream, her bouquet trembling slightly in her hands. She took a deep breath, heart pounding, not with fear, but something else. A strange feeling, like someone was watching her. She turned slightly, and there, standing in the very last pew, near the exit where no one else had noticed, was him. Older now, cleaner, taller, but the eyes... those eyes were the same. Her breath hitched. She nearly dropped the flowers. He gave a small, respectful nod. And for a split second, time stopped. Her mind raced. How did he find me, after all these years? Why today? But as she stared at him, he gently reached into his coat and held something up. A scarf. Soft pink. Faded, but folded perfectly. Her scarf. The one she had tied around his bleeding leg all those years ago. Her throat tightened. Her father whispered beside her, "Are you all right?" She nodded, quickly wiping the tear that escaped before anyone could see. "I'm perfect," she whispered. And then she walked down the aisle. But as she passed the final row, she met his eyes one last time. And he mouthed, "Thank you." She smiled, and mouthed back, "You're welcome." After the ceremony, as laughter filled the reception hall and music played under fairy lights, Sophie's heart was somewhere else. She kept glancing toward the entrance, half expecting him to have disappeared like before. But he hadn't. He was waiting by the garden archway, away from the crowd. Quiet, still, like a man who didn't want to disturb a world that had finally given her everything. She slipped away from the dance floor and walked toward him, heart racing like she was 9 again, clutching a water bottle and a heart full of questions. He smiled as she approached. "You grew up," he said softly. She laughed gently. "So did you. I almost didn't recognize you." "You shouldn't have recognized me," he replied. "That was the point." She tilted her head. "Then why come back?" He reached into his coat again and pulled out something small, something wrapped in cloth. When he unfolded it, Sophie gasped. It was the stitched handkerchief. But this time the corner didn't just say brave. It said brave because of you. A.L. "I was a soldier," he said quietly. On the run, injured, lost. I wasn't supposed to be anywhere near that farm, but you didn't ask questions. You didn't scream. You helped. Sophie's eyes filled. You saved my life, he continued. And that life? I've spent it trying to be someone worthy of the kindness a little girl showed a broken stranger. She couldn't speak. He smiled. I heard about the wedding through someone back home. I just wanted to make sure you knew. I never forgot. She placed a hand gently over his. Neither did I. Then she hugged him. Tight, like no time had passed. When they pulled apart, he smiled once more. I won't keep you. Just thank you, Sophie. And before she could say another word, he turned and walked away into the night. No name, no photos, just peace. Because sometimes the smallest act of kindness plants something so deep, it finds its way back when you least expect it. As the night grew quieter and the final songs faded into soft laughter, Sophie stood at the edge of the dance floor, still clutching the small stitched handkerchief in her hand. Guests thought it was just a thoughtful gift, maybe from a relative. But Sophie knew. This was a full circle silently tied in cotton threads. Her husband, Aaron, walked over, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. Hey, he said gently, you disappeared for a bit. She smiled, eyes still slightly glassy. I had to talk to someone from my past. Someone important? She nodded. Someone who reminded me who I am, and why I always believed in helping people without needing a reason. Aaron looked at the handkerchief. Can I ask? She placed it gently in his palm. It's a thank you from a man I once helped when I was just a little girl. He came back today. Not to take anything, just to let me know I changed his life. Aaron studied the stitching, then looked at her with a mix of awe and love. Of course you did. Later that evening, after the final goodbyes and teary hugs, Sophie found herself alone in the bridal suite. She opened a drawer in her nightstand and placed the handkerchief inside, right next to her childhood photo album. She didn't need to frame it or put it on display. Some things aren't for the world to see. Some things are for your soul to remember. Because once upon a time, a little girl gave water and kindness to a stranger in pain. And years later, that moment didn't just return. It walked back in and quietly said, "You mattered." Sometimes, the people we save are the ones who come back to remind us that we were never small at all. Share this story if you believe in quiet miracles and long-forgotten thank yous finally finding their way home.